laughter in your heart, or tears, you are welcome here. Not just your open mind, your loving heart, and your willing hands, but you, exactly as you are welcome here. Please now open your hymnals to hymn 324, where we will sing "Where My Free Spirit Onward Leads." And please rise with God in your spirit.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Jordan Roberts, and I welcome you all to our service today. I'd like to thank Rick for the music he has and will continue to provide to us today. For those with an LDS background, I'm sure you recognize that tune that we just sang and that was chosen purposefully as the tune that is sung in the LDS Church to the hymn, "If You Could Hide the Kola," which comes from some of the early teachings of Joseph Smith about the theosis and destiny of man and woman to become. So I would like to give a little brief introduction today to the service. This month our theme is harmony, and the title of our talk today is Religious Transhumanism, a harmony of potential and origin that will be given by a dear friend of mine. There are several religious traditions in the West and a few in the East that have this belief in what we call theosis or apotheosis, that men and women can become like God, and that's destiny. I'd like to read a couple of quotes to you. The first one comes from Vladimir Bosky, and this talks about this tradition inside the Eastern Orthodox Church, so the church that is now the Russian Orthodox and the Greek Orthodox Church. So this is a common belief in those denominations. God made himself man, that man might become God. These powerful words, which we find for the first time in St. Irenaeus, are again found in the writings of St. Athanasius, St. Gregory of Nazianzus, and St. Gregory of Nyssa. The fathers and Orthodox theologians have repeated them every century with the same emphasis, wishing to sum up this striking sentence in the very essence of Christianity. An ineffable descent of God to the ultimate human or fallen condition, even unto death. A descent of God which opens to men and women a path of ascent, the unlimited vistas of union of created beings with the divinity. And I'd like to finish my opening words today with a quote by a Jesuit priest and paleontologist, a man way ahead of his time, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who said, "Someday, after we have mastered the winds, the waves, the tides, and gravity, we shall harness for God the energies of love. Then, for the second time in the history of the world, we will have discovered fire." I'd like at this time to invite the children forward for a story. Young and young at heart. Is this on? Give you a few more seconds. Everybody up who wants to go? All right, who can tell me, just by guessing, what book I'm holding right now? Don't cheat. What do you think, Ashton? The Holy Bible. That's right. Very good. What clued you in? That's okay. You don't have to answer that. So, I chose on purpose this big, beautiful, old copy of the Bible, just to give you guys an idea. This was one of the very first technologies of after the Enlightenment, after the Renaissance, was the idea that everybody could read the Bible. And they printed big copies of it. And for the first time in history, lots and lots of people were reading the Bible. So it's very important in our history. Who knows the story of the Tower of Babel? Has anybody heard that story? Okay. Well, it's found in the book of Genesis, which is the very first book in the Bible, in chapter 11. And I'm just going to read a couple verses to you from this chapter so that you guys will be familiar with the story. Now, I'll do that and then I'll show you a picture of what's going on in the story, okay? So chapter 11 goes, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there, and they said to one another, 'Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly.' And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, 'Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.' And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, and that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore, it is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord there did confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So that's old-fashioned English, right? It's hard to understand, so I'm going to put it in words you guys can understand, and the picture. Can you all see this picture? Do you see the tower? So these people were people who were on in the story, in the Bible, after the flood, when almost everybody died. And so they decided to build this tower that would reach all the way to heaven, all the way to where they thought God lived, so that they would never have to be threatened with extinction again, so that they could become as powerful as God if they could go all the way up to where he lived. But they never finished the tower. The tower remained like you see it there, kind of half built. And then they abandoned it, and it crumbled down, and there's none of it left to be seen. So there's another story that's similar to this one, found in Greek mythology, called the story of Icarus. Now, does anybody know that story? No? Okay. So Icarus and his father Daedalus were in prison on an island in Greece called Crete. And they didn't want to be in prison anymore, so they gathered up sticks and feathers and wax, and they made themselves wings. And they used those wings to fly away from prison. But Daedalus warned his son Icarus before they left. He said, don't fly too high. Don't go too close to the sun. Because if you do, the wax on your wings will melt, and you'll fall, and you'll die. But guess what happened? Do you think Icarus listened to his father? No. As soon as he started flying, he felt so free and so wonderful. He just kept going higher and higher and higher. And the wax on his wings melted, and he fell. And he died. So, yeah, the end. So, here, it's small, but here is a picture of Icarus flying high and his wings falling apart right before he falls into the ocean and dies. Right? So, in olden times, people used to tell these stories to their children and to each other to remind us that we're just people, right? God made us and he put us here on earth, or she put us here on earth. And we shouldn't try to be more than we are. We shouldn't be arrogant and try to build things that would get all the way to heaven where God lives. We shouldn't try to understand God's thoughts. God is bigger than us. God is wiser than us. We should be happy to be where we are and stay where we are. But what's happened in the past 100 years? Have people flown? Have we created machines that make us fly? We have. Have we left the earth? We have. People have made machines that can go all the way to take a person, all the way to the moon. And in your lifetime, people will go even farther than that. People will go to Mars. People will go to Jupiter. People will go all over the place. So, does this mean that we're being arrogant? Does this mean we're being bad? And that God will be mad at us? I don't think so. Do you think God wants us to try and do that kind of stuff? I think he does. So this is a picture taken of our Earth from space, right? And before we invented these technologies to take us to the moon and to space, human beings had never seen the Earth this way, the way that God sees the Earth, right? From heaven. But now we can. We can look back on the Earth from space. We can see it as one little dot, right? And that's special, and that's holy, and that's good. So, don't think about God as being out there, somewhere we can't reach, somewhere beyond our grasp. God's right here. You are a part of God. When you try to do something that's hard, that's beyond your natural limits, you can feel God. You can feel God saying, go on. You can do it. All right? Let's sing the children out. And you can follow along in the order of service. I'd like to draw your attention to our altar, which was decorated by Jan this morning at short notice. So it's not really just a random pile of junk, although it may look that way. So up here we have represented many different kinds of technologies. Some of them are still usable, some of them are a little obsolete. And we have our digital chalice as well. Maybe someday we'll just use the digital one and we'll get rid of the analog one. I hope not. I like that one. So, and it's kind of in theme with our service today. So, I'd like to lead you all in a meditation this morning. And I'd like you to find a comfortable place in your seat. To make sure your legs are crossed, whatever's more comfortable. And then close your eyes as you're willing and able. And feel the ground underneath your feet. Feel the chair supporting your weight beneath you and behind your back. Feel the shoes on your feet, clothes on your body. Feel the cool air circulating around you. Listen to the breath of the person next to you, to the hum of the audio equipment, the sound of the distant cars on the street, maybe even the sound of your own breathing, your own heartbeat. Reflect on the kindness that is all around you, the kindness of your shoes, which protect you from the hot, hard and sharp stones. The kindness of the clothing protects you from the elements. The kindness of the carpet, which makes it a comfortable place to be and to worship. The softness of the chair. Think about all of the work that went into these things, many hours, engineering, testing, the people who worked to bring you these kind objects. Even though they are objects, they are reflections of the kindness of another human being to you. Now let your consciousness, your awareness, include the people around you. Feel that you are part of a large other self of human people. And let that circle widen to include those not of your family or your faith, not of your nation, not of your language. Let that circle widen until it encompasses the entire earth and all people and all creatures on it. Feel empathy for them. Imagine that they live lives very similar to your own. That they will have desires similar to your own. Let that empathy extend to the victims of the recent tragedies in Minnesota, in Louisiana, in Dallas. Feel the pain of those families, those people who were ruthlessly and needlessly murdered. But in that pain, find a flicker of hope, face of a person who finds hope in such a thing. Feed that hope. And let your mind imagine the world we will make, the world we will build where such tragedies are rare, and where healing can happen, and reconciliation becomes our reflex instead of hate and fear. If you have found that hope, keep it alive. And gently return your focus to the room. Thank you. now invite Jan to come up and lead us in our next musical number, 304, A Fierce Unrest in the Great Hymn. If you'll now open to your order of service and say with me the words of our offering. And please, if you are visiting us today or you are a guest, please feel no obligation to accept the offering. We are this church.
We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
Nowadays, we know that we have synthesizers and those came after this. Before the piano, we had harpsichords. I'm not sure if you know
the offerings that are given with the different organization every month. And this month we'll be sharing our offering with the Bicycle Collective. The Bicycle Collective is a local organization that shares the virtues of cycling as a sustainable form of transportation and as a cornerstone of a cleaner, healthier, and safer society. So, this time, I would like to ask our speaker, Lincoln Cannon, to join me on the slide. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about my friend Lincoln. So Lincoln is a technologist. Sorry. Oh, we did. Where's his rep here? Here at the front. Sorry. Actually, we are going to have one of our friends here at South Valley, Rev Wilkinson, come up and lead us in responsive reading number 530 in the great hymnal in the back, Out of the Stars. And then I'll introduce my friend.
Okay, so with the responsive reading, you can find that this book. It's number 530, and I'll basically be reading the parts that are not italicized, and then you read the parts that are. So here we go. Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity, here have we come. Stardust and sunlight mingling through time and through space.
Out of the stars have we come, up from time. Out of the stars have we come.
Time out of time before time, in the vastness of space, Earth spun to orbit the sun, Earth with the thunder of mountains newborn, the boiling of seas.
Earth warmed by sun, lit by sunlight. This is our home. Out of the stars have we come.
Mystery hidden in mystery, back through all time, mystery rising from rocks in the storm and the sea.
Out of the stars, rising from rocks in the sea, kindled by sunlight on earth, rose light.
Ponder this thing in your heart, ponder with awe. Out of the sea to the land, out of the shallows came ferns.
Out of the sea to the land, up from darkness to light, rising to walk and to fly, out of the sea trembled life.
Ponder this thing in your heart, life up from sea, eyes to behold, throats to sing, mates to love.
Life from the sea, warmed by sun, washed by rain, life from within, giving birth, rose to love.
This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth. Life upon earth rose to love.
This is the marvel of life, rising to see and to know. Out of your heart, cry and wonder, sing that we live.
Thank you, Rev. Thank you, Jan, for capturing me. So, Lincoln Cannon is a technologist and philosopher and leading advocate of technological evolution and post-secular religion. For over a decade, Lincoln has written and presented on topics at the intersection of technology and philosophy, with emphasis on Mormonism and transhumanism. He believes technology always presents both risks and opportunities, and he envisions the ethical use of technology empowering humanity to attain unprecedented global degrees of vitality, intelligence, cooperation, and creativity. He is a founder, board member, and former president of the Mormon Transhumanist Association, which is how I came to know him, which is the world's largest advocacy network for the ethical use of technology and religion to extend human abilities. He is a founder and advisor of the Christian Transhumanist Association. He also formulated the New God argument, a logical argument for faith in God that is popular among religious transhumanists. And personally, I know Lincoln. I've known him for about 5, almost 6 years now. Met him online when we were still living in Arizona, and have had a lot of fun getting to know him personally since we moved here about a year ago. And I'm really pleased that he was willing to come and speak to us today. And I hope I can put all of you at ease that this is not going to be a lecture. This is not a lecture on transhumanism or Mormonism. Lincoln is a very thoughtful man, although he is a faithfully practicing member of the LDS Church. He's a very caring man. I hope that you can all feel at ease listening to his words, and feel free to disagree or take whatever you can or want to from what he has to say. And I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jordan. I'm truly honored and pleased to be here. The piano has been awesome. The words have been awesome. The hymns have been awesome. I'm inspired by them, and it's truly a pleasure to be with you today. I hope that I'll share something that will inspire you and help you. I'd like to begin with a story. I think some of you will recognize this. Early on Sunday, while it's still dark, Mary goes to the cemetery and sees that the tomb of God is open. So she runs to her friends and says, "They've taken God, and we don't know where." Peter and John start for the tomb. Both are running. John outruns Peter and reaches the tomb first, and he looks in at nothing. But he doesn't go in. Then Peter comes from behind and goes straight into the tomb. He sees nothing. Finally, John goes inside. He sees and he believes that God is dead and gone. Then they go home. Now Mary stands outside the tomb crying. By Nietzsche's reckoning, ours is the 3rd century since we finally killed God. We had tried everything, from piercings and poisonings to burnings and crucifixions. Horrified by the ugliness in life, we indulged in escapism and nihilism, relegating God to gaps far away or long ago, or maybe even negating space and time, thinking of eternal life as death. But it took pity. Now, early in the 1st century of this new millennium, while it's still dark, some of us are satisfied that God is dead and gone. After all, they looked in the tomb and they saw nothing. God was probably a delusion, so they went home. My message today isn't for them. But others still stand outside the tomb crying like Mary. As Mary weeps, she looks into the tomb and she sees 2 godlike persons where the dead God had been. They ask her, "Why are you crying?" "They've taken my God," she says, "and I don't know where." At this, she turns around and sees another godlike person, but she doesn't realize who it is. He asks her, "Why are you crying?" With Mary, some of us just aren't satisfied that God is dead and gone. We might believe it, but we aren't satisfied. Maybe there's no God to discover and join, but maybe there's a God to create and become. We imagine perpetual improvements in science, ethics, economics. We imagine their increasingly powerful applications in technology, governance, commerce. And unlike those who are satisfied, we hope for a new world, radically transformed beyond present notions of ignorance, suffering, or poverty. We hope for heaven, not as a euphemism for death, but rather real as light and warm as love. There's a new way to think about the future of humanity. Transhumanists have discarded the old assumption that human nature is, or ever was, static. not only because science has demonstrated biological evolution, but especially because history itself is cultural and technological evolution. We're diverse in background and perspective, but our common expectation is that humans will continue to evolve. Our common ambition is to shape that evolution intentionally, changing our bodies and minds, our relationships, and our world for the better, perhaps even to learn, love, and create together indefinitely. Some have accused transhumanism of being the most dangerous idea. The risks truly are as horrible as the opportunities are wonderful. Even acknowledging concerns and emphasizing ethics, we might agree with our critics that we're trying to play God. After all, what are the alternatives? What are the prospects for children that would not try to play adult, that would not grow from trying to learning, would not mature from playing to being? Surely that nursery will prove too small, even for the smallest of the living. But for us, who know we're not dead as yet, why not believe the most dangerous idea? Why not live? Most transhumanists will tell you of our predecessors in secular humanism. For example, ancient Greek philosophers, we've heard about Greek philosophy today, their stories, looked beyond traditional gods for scientific explanations of the world. In the 17th century, Galileo deferred to human observation when conflicting with ecclesiastical authority. And in the 18th century, scientists like Marquis de Condorcet eschewed religion, claiming that reason and medical science would perfect humanity. That's not the whole story. Transhumanism also has religious predecessors. For example, 20th century Jesuit priest Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who we also heard about earlier today, advocated a vision of human evolution accelerated by technology and merging inexorably with a conception of God. 19th century Russian Orthodox priest Nikolai Fedorov proclaimed that the common task of humanity should be the technological resurrection of our ancestors. Before him, 13th century scholastic theologians synthesized Christianity with popular science, which was at their time the newly rediscovered ideas of Aristotle. And before them, New Testament writers and centuries of early Orthodox and Catholic authorities syncretized with Neoplatonism, the popular science of their day. Christianity has also preserved the ancient and abiding doctrine of theosis, which we talked about earlier, the idea that's sometimes called divinization or deification, the idea that humans should become God. 20th century Pope John Paul II said that humanity is called to a synthesis of science and religion in full humanism, he says. A dynamically open and boundless horizon of divinization. 12th century St. Peter of Damascus wrote that the wisdom of God renders easy what was once difficult and gradually deifies us. And 2nd century St. Justin Martyr claimed that all of us are worthy of becoming gods. The Bible itself presents the doctrine of theosis in both subtle and overt ways. God creates human in the divine image and grants dominion over creation. The Old Testament refers to God as a God of gods. Countless passages encourage us to think of ourselves as children of God. And the psalmist combines those ideas, writing that God judges among the gods. You are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. Jesus uses that psalm when responding to charges of hubris, suggesting to critics that if his claim to be the Son of God is blasphemous, their scriptures are even more blasphemous. And of course, Jesus invites all of his disciples to be one with him as joint heirs in the glory of God. Beyond Christianity, other major religions preserve analogs to the doctrine of theosis, expressed in sacred stories about sublime transformation or transfiguration. In Hinduism, Arjuna gains divine eyes to see the universal form of Krishna. In Judaism, Moses gains a radiant face from speaking with Jehovah. And in Buddhism, Siddhartha gains radiant skin while in full enlightenment as the Buddha. Each of these stories, and countless others like them, would provoke their devotees and disciples to trust in, change toward, and fully immerse our bodies and our minds in a conception of the sublime. As expressed in Christianity, we are called to faith, repentance, and baptism in Christ. Yes, even the most basic doctrine of Christianity, the gospel of Christ, is essentially about human transformation into God. And beyond religion, even some of the most anti-religious among us aren't convincingly satisfied that God is dead and gone. Although, like Mary, when they see God-like persons, they may not realize who it is. For example, Michael Shermer, a celebrity atheist, tells us that any sufficiently advanced intelligence is indistinguishable from God. And Richard Dawkins asserts there are very probably alien civilizations that are superhuman, to the point of being godlike in ways that exceed anything a theologian could possibly imagine. It's hard to say what exceeds the imagination of theologians. For millennia, they've diversely imagined the transformation of earth into heaven and humans into gods. Some have even imagined gods of gods, without beginning, making worlds within worlds without end. But something in me wants to follow Dawkins on this. Surely civilizations can evolve to superhuman capacities, beyond our present ability to conceive, let alone express, except perhaps vaguely in analogs and symbols. I want to believe they can do that. I want to believe that our civilization can do that, and even more, I feel an obligation to trust that it's possible. An important kind of truth is created, and an important kind of created truth depends on our trust in its possibility. We work to create only that which we believe to be possible, and the scope of our civilization's future may depend to some significant extent on someone's, maybe yours, willingness to imagine and pursue what someone else thought to be impossible. Hope may have such practical power. And if morality has any meaning at all, it depends for that meaning on the perpetuation of morally capable persons. To trust in that which correlates with extinction of such persons is to undermine the significance of trust. To engage the practical power of hope toward that which entails moral annihilation is the deepest irony. Whatever the underlying values may be, in all their competition and reconciliation, morality must remain true to moral life. For such practical and moral reasons, I trust that our human civilization will not become extinct before evolving into a superhuman civilization. In other words, I trust that humans will become God. And I call this the faith assumption. It's an assumption because we can't prove that it's true, at least not before making it true. And it's faith because it's trust in God, although admittedly, in a way that some won't immediately recognize. Again, like Mary, we may see a godlike person and not realize who it is. The faith assumption has two theological implications. The first relates to compassion. Imagine the risks of technological change. Today we have vast and decentralized power to destroy, both environmentally and socially. More of us have more power to do more harm than ever before, and indeed some choose to destroy, But most of us choose otherwise, reflecting at least instrumental cooperation, if not a measure of genuine compassion. Without that, civilization as we know it wouldn't be possible. Tomorrow, our power to destroy will grow and spread. Assuming we survive, more of us will have more power to do more harm than ever before. And our choices to avoid destruction will reflect increasing measures of compassion as our power increases to superhuman levels. The only alternative is that humans probably will become extinct before gaining such destructive power. The faith assumption rejects extinction. And here, that entails trust that superhumans probably would be more compassionate than we are. That's the first implication of the faith assumption, and I call it the compassion argument. The second implication of the faith assumption relates to creation of worlds. Imagine the opportunities of technological change. Today, we have truly awesome power to create, in large measure because of our computers. Some apply that power to run ancestor simulations, compute worlds that emulate approximations of our social or biological evolution. You've done this if you've ever used Ancestry.com or played SimCity. Whether for research or for entertainment, computers now run more ancestor simulations than ever before. And those simulations are more detailed and immersive than ever before. Tomorrow, our power to create will grow. Countless computed worlds will become indistinguishable from our world. And the best explanation for their origins will converge. Our civilization almost certainly wouldn't be the first or only to create many worlds emulating its evolutionary history. The only alternative is that humans probably will become extinct before gaining such creative power. The faith assumption, again, rejects extinction, and here that entails trust that superhumans probably created our world. That's the second implication of the faith assumption. I call it the creation argument. In combination, the compassion argument and the creation argument entail trust that superhumans probably would be more compassionate than us and probably created our world. So trust in our superhuman potential entails trust in our superhuman origin. And conversely, distrust in our superhuman origin entails distrust in our superhuman potential. This is the new God argument, a popular argument among religious transhumanists. Again, when presented with such ideas, even some of the most anti-religious among us aren't convincingly satisfied that God is dead and gone. For example, Sam Harris, another celebrity atheist, acknowledges that supercomputing people of the future could engineer specific religious doctrines into their worlds as self-fulfilling prophecies, in which case those doctrines may be true in our world. And Richard Dawkins admits he cannot think of how to disprove it. But again, like Mary, when the anti-religious see God-like persons, they may not realize who it is. Dawkins goes on to insist that superhumans would not be gods, because no matter how godlike they may seem when we encounter them, they didn't start that way. While that may be a problem for some theologies, it's not a problem for religious transhumanists. After all, if there's any chance that humans will become God, it's almost certain that others became God before us. The godlike person asks Mary again, "Who are you looking for?" Thinking he's the undertaker, she says, "Sir, if you've taken God, tell me where, and I'll go." He says to her, "Mary." And she reaches toward him and cries out, "Jesus." It was something like that for me too. Although I had transhumanist ideas since childhood. I didn't find transhumanism by name until adulthood. And I found it at a time when I had lost my faith in traditional notions of God. On occasion, only half joking, I'd tell my friends that I was agnostic about extraterrestrial humanoid deities. I was essentially an atheist. It might sound strange, but during this same time, my admiration for Christianity was growing. Two of the main reasons for that were the writings of Paul in the New Testament and the writings of 20th century philosopher William James, after whom I named my second son, who's sitting over here, who was born during that time. Together, Paul and James persuaded me of the practical value of faith in God, even if God didn't exist yet. But, maybe ironically, it took transhumanists and atheists to help me see what traditional theists never could. As I read the works of Ray Kurzweil, Nick Bostrom, and Richard Dawkins, I found a confluence of ideas that I didn't expect. And more transformative, I found renewed hope and meaning that I didn't expect. That's not because any of them are religious transhumanists, they're not. But it's because their ideas harmonized with other ideas, religious ideas, that I knew well and understood well, even if I had lost the ability to believe in them on a rational level. Like Mary, when I was crying next to the tomb of God, the resurrected God spoke to me. And eventually, when the words became what I personally needed to hear, I recognized God. If you're also crying next to the tomb, maybe you should take another look at the undertaker.
So we will start to close up our service today by singing the closing song under 318, We Would Be One. Afterwards, I'll say a few closing words, and we will introduce our visitors into the worship. really hard. I'd like to close the service today by offering my prayer for you, my friends, and for our world. May you be filled with hope in the future. May hope drive out fear. May love drive out hate. May we see in ourselves and in others the gods and embryo that we are. And may the world be healed in our maturity from the harm we have caused in our adolescence.